Gallup did a really interesting poll to kind of figure out which countries are the happiest. And, they looked at all types of countries across the board, okay? They looked at wealthy countries, countries that are extremely poor. In fact, to give you some more detail, Gallup asked 150,000 people in total, but they also asked 1,000 people in each of the 148 countries last year if they were well rested, had been treated with respect, smiled or laughed a lot, learned or did something interesting, and felt feelings of enjoyment the previous day.
So this is a part of that larger poll,
Yep.
right? And it's an interesting question to ask because often people look at barometers like how rich are you as far as the country and
Exactly.
the GDP, et cetera. And the parameters that they've chosen are interesting. I don't know that I agree that that's the definition of happiness, but it's a decent proximity. So it makes me curious as to which way people went with this.
I think it's interesting to not look at economic factors and look at someone's outlook and optimism.
Sure.
As
you and I might have put different adjectives to describe people's outlooks
Yeah.
to see if they were really happy.
That's true,
right?
yeah.
But these are good enough, and it made me curious which way they went. So U.S. #1, right?
Yeah. The U.S. is all the way at number 33.
Yeah, we're number 33. Oh, that's not that good.
I'm actually surprised we're that high. I mean, things are pretty bad in the U.S. right now. People are pretty upset.
No, I hear you. But look, money does make a difference. It's not determinative. For example, Singapore has a lot of money, but people are working themselves to the bone, and they're actually one of the least happy countries, right? But overall, some of the wealthier countries are in the top half because they're not worried about, constantly dying like they are in Iraq, which is near the bottom. They're not constantly worried about starvation, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a huge advantage in the rich countries. So given that the U.S. is the richest country, the fact that we're all the way at number 33 actually doesn't speak that well of our culture.
True. So let's look at the highest positive emotions worldwide, okay? And coming in at number 1 is actually Panama. Okay, 85% of the respondents said yes when they were asked, do you feel well rested today? Were you treated with respect all day yesterday? Did you smile or laugh a lot? It seems like the majority of people had pretty warm and fuzzy feelings.
Being respected, I'm glad they put that in there. It's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
but and maybe that has something to do with the answers here. And I think that family life probably has a lot to do with it because look at all those Latin American countries in there.
Yep.
I mean, Panama, nicely done. Panama. Anyway.
And also, there was an interesting quote by a Panamanian in this article where he basically talked about how important he feels because he lives in Panama, because Panama is very important because of the canal. Mm-hmm. It's a major player when it comes to trade. And I love that. I love that he takes great pride in his country. So I think pride in your country also plays a role.
Yeah. It's interesting for a couple of reasons. So as you look at the list, you've got Panama, Paraguay, El Salvador, Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago, then finally Thailand. But otherwise, it's all Latin America or the Caribbean. For example, Trinidad is really close to Venezuela. And then you got Guatemala again. Guatemala, very poor, but at 82% responding yes to happy, etc. Philippines, finally another Asian country. Ecuador and Costa Rica. That's 8 out of 10 that are in the general area. So obviously, Latin American countries are doing something right.
Yep.
I have to believe that it has something to do with family life.
I think it's family life. I think it also just has to do with culture, right? I think that there are certain cultures where you're not really ashamed about talking about how upset you are, how unsatisfied you are, how depressed you are, whatever. You can talk about that kind of stuff freely. I'm not saying you can't do that in Latin America, but there are also cultures where it's like, put on a good face. Mm-hmm. Even though you're going through a lot, just be thankful for what you do have and, just be optimistic.
Right. So it's a combination of a lot of different factors, I'm sure. But I'm reminded of the old story that I never tell right, but it's like a American banker goes down to Mexico for a vacation. And he says, man, you got it good here. He's fishing with a local Mexican guy who's taking him out on a boat. And he says, man, I want to do this. I got to work the next 30, 40 years so I can make a lot of money so I could buy a house down here in a big boat and go fishing like this every day. And the Mexican guy goes, that's what I already do every day. And that goes partly to explaining what's happening here. They're not stressing themselves out like they are in Singapore, like, oh, I got to make all this money so one day I can relax. Whereas a lot of people in Latin America is like, I got an idea for you. Why don't you go straight to relaxing?
Yeah.
So, and well rested, maybe they're taking siestas.
Which sounds so awesome.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? By the way, your well-being is connected to sleep a lot. It's, you know, there's thousands of studies on that, or perhaps a little less, maybe dozens, but nonetheless, a lot of studies.
Yes.
And so actually siestas are awesome for you. But of course, here in the US, as well as a lot of the other, you know, driven countries, South Korea, et cetera, like sleeping during the day, what kind of a lazy bum are you?
The US always gets everything wrong, okay? When you're like a kindergartner and you don't want to take a freaking nap in the middle of the day, you want to go out there and play, the teachers will like, you know, hammer you until you go to bed, right? Or until you take your nap.
They hammer you, like, go to bed. Okay. Well, we're bad in America. We're not quite that bad.
Okay, but then you're an adult, you want to take a little sleepy poo, you want to take a nap, and all of a sudden you're a lazy person.
Yeah. Here's who does not listen to that kind of conventional wisdom bullshit. Dave Cole. No one takes more micro naps in the middle of the day than Dave Cole. But not just like at work or whatever, okay, but you know, when you're co-founder of a company, you can take a nap whenever the fuck you like, apparently, right? So, anyway, but also on our vacations, like we go on these guys' trips, we're having fun, everybody's telling stories, we're laughing, we look at the back of the van, Dave's like, that's why he loves the Latin American culture. I'm surprised Bolivia wasn't on that top 10 list. All right, you want to give me the bottom 10?
Yes, the bottom 10. So coming in at number one, or the very bottom, is Singapore. Second to the bottom is Armenia.
Nice.
Then you have Iraq. I can't believe Iraq is more happy than Armenia.
Man, that's not good.
Then you have Georgia, Yemen, Serbia, Belarus,
Lithuania, Madagascar, Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Haiti, Togo, and Macedonia. Look, there's a couple of things in common with the bottom of the list as well. One is, you know, countries that are working too hard. Another is former Soviet republics. And there's this old joke, I'm full of old jokes today, where God comes down to Russia and says, I'll give you anything you want, okay? Any wish you want, unlimited amount. But the only catch is if whatever I give you, I'm going to give your neighbor twice as much. And the Russian says, oh, great, no problem. Gouge one of my eyes out. Okay, so like there's this culture of envy, and I don't want the other guy to get it, I don't want it. And that apparently spread to the Soviet republics. And by the way, of course, when the Soviet Union broke up, there was also economic devastation. I mean, there was devastation within the Soviet Union, and then the breakup, and then mayhem, etc. So there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, when Armenia became independent and it was no longer under Soviet rule, I mean, it was devastating for, you know, the people there, because all of a sudden, you know, there's no jobs, there's hunger, there's poverty. So I mean, that was there before, but it wasn't to the same extent.
And then the one other element after the breakup is tremendous economic inequality. So a couple of oligarchs wind up taking all the money, and everybody else sees them, and they're having a great time, and look at them, and then look at our terrible situation. And then you add that old cultural envy into that mix, and that's why you're going to have a lot of the bottom 10 as former Soviet republics. And of course, the one other thing that unites the bottom 10 is violence. Iraq, Yemen, Afghanistan, absolutely devastated. Another way of saying it, by the way, is countries that the U.S. has invaded or regularly bombs.
Yep, that's true. There was this one quote by an Armenian sociologist that I like, Adi Bekyan. Look at that. I can say Armenian stuff. He says, feeling unhappy, and he's referring to Armenians, feeling unhappy is part of the national mentality here. Armenians like being mournful. There have been so many upheavals in the nation's history that Americans keep their smiles on and avoid sharing their problems with others, and Armenians feel ashamed about being successful. I think what he's trying to say there, and this is definitely part of the culture, and I even believe it myself. If you brag about your successes, they're going to give you the eye, the evil eye.
Oh, the evil eye. That's a Turkish thing too. And Turkey didn't do that well either. They were, you know, they were like in the bottom 30 or so, right? I was surprised by that, because a lot of Turks I know are like happy-go-lucky folks, but on the other hand, in Turkey, whenever you go, everybody's like, I sicked it, it's sicked it.
Yeah.
So maybe that makes sense.